Oscar López Rivera, the freedom fighter, who became a symbol of Puerto Rican resistance. For over 35 years, Oscar López Rivera was one of the most controversial and enduring figures in the struggle for Puerto Rican independence. To some, he was a political prisoner, a man unjustly held for his beliefs. To others, he was a radical activist who went too far in his fight for freedom. But no matter where one stands, his story is one of unwavering commitment to Puerto Rico's liberation and a testament to the ongoing fight for self-determination and justice. Oscar López Rivera was born in San Sebastián, Puerto Rico, in 1943. But like many Puerto Ricans in the mid-20th century, he and his family moved to the mainland United States in search of a better life. He settled in Chicago, a city with a growing Puerto Rican community, but also one plagued by poverty, racism, and discrimination. Like many young Puerto Rican men at the time, López Rivera was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. He served with distinction and even earned a Bronze Star. But the experience changed him. Seeing firsthand the effects of U.S. imperialism abroad made him more aware of the injustices his own people faced back home in Puerto Rico. When he returned to Chicago in the late 1960s, he became deeply involved in community activism, working to improve housing, education, and healthcare for Puerto Ricans. However, his activism soon took a more radical turn. López Rivera became a key figure in the Fuerzas, Armadas de Liberación Nacional, FALN, a clandestine Puerto Rican nationalist group that sought independence from U.S. rule. The FALN believed that peaceful efforts for independence had failed and that direct action, including armed struggle, was necessary. Between the 1970s and early 1980s, the FALN was responsible for over 120 bombings in U.S. cities, targeting government buildings, banks, and corporations they believed were complicit in Puerto Rico's oppression. The most infamous attack was the 1975 bombing of Francis Tavern in New York City, which killed 4 people. Though López Rivera was never directly tied to any specific act of violence, he was arrested in 1981 and convicted of seditious conspiracy, a charge historically used against activists fighting against U.S. colonial rule. Sentenced to 50 years in prison, López Rivera quickly became one of the longest-held political prisoners in U.S. history. Over time, he became a symbol of Puerto Rican resistance, with many arguing that his imprisonment was not about any crimes he committed, but rather about silencing the movement for Puerto Rican independence. His case drew support from activists, politicians, and even Nobel Peace Prize winners, including Desmond Tutu and Jimmy Carter. In 1989, President Bill Clinton offered clemency to López Rivera and other Puerto Rican political prisoners, but he refused to accept it unless all of his fellow prisoners were also released. For many, this act cemented his status as a true revolutionary, a man who would not compromise his principles for personal freedom. Finally, in 2017, after 36 years behind bars, López Rivera was granted clemency by President Barack Obama. Upon his release, he was greeted as a hero in Puerto Rico, with thousands celebrating his return. He immediately resumed his activism, advocating for Puerto Rico's independence, environmental protection, and social justice. López Rivera has spoken about the struggles Puerto Rico continues to face, from economic exploitation to the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. In his words, "The greatest dream I have is for Puerto Rico to be free and for its people to live with dignity and justice." To this day, Oscar López Rivera remains a divisive figure. His supporters view him as a freedom fighter, a man who sacrificed decades of his life for his people. His critics see him as a radical tied to violent acts. But one thing is clear: his story is a crucial chapter in the ongoing fight for Puerto Rican self-determination. What do you think? Was Oscar López Rivera a revolutionary hero or a controversial activist? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to every Bori for more stories about Puerto Ricans who fought for freedom, justice, and change.